I'm Michael Birkner, professor of history, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the history of Weidensall Hall on the Gettysburg College campus. This is part of a project for Phi Beta Kappa to talk a little bit about campus buildings and their changes over time. One of the first things I should say about our Gettysburg College campus is that when we deal with the campus, we're very functional about it. We think about how we use it and, of course, how we use it now. We don't tend to think very hard about whether a building was originally designed to do what it does now for us. And Weidensall Hall, which I'm standing in front of, is a perfect example of that. Weidensall Hall today is an academic building primarily for interdisciplinary studies in some of the humanities departments as well as the education program. That isn't the original design for Weidensall Hall. So let's go back in time a little bit and talk about Weidensall Hall and how it got originated and how it got built and how it has changed. Weidensall Hall actually was originally conceived as a Christian education building, or to put it another way, a YMCA building for Gettysburg College. Gettysburg is associated with the origins and the great spread of the international YMCA project in the late 19th century, because the International Secretary of the YMCA for 50 years was a Gettysburg College graduate, Robert Weidensall, class of 1860. As early as the 1890s, with Robert Weidensall's encouragement, Gettysburg College, then called Pennsylvania College, people began to talk about building a Y building for Gettysburg. Now, it was mostly talk because the money was not there to build a building. It simply didn't happen. But the idea did not die. A new president came in 1910, and he said it was important to have such a building for our Christian students. But he couldn't raise the money either. That was President Granville. So in 1915, a new organization associated with Pennsylvania College, the Women's League, made a commitment to building a new YMCA building. And the Women's League was very persistent. It wasn't necessarily fortunate in finding a big donor, but it was very persistent in raising money bit by bit, dollar by dollar, to get things going. The war intervened, World War I, and that pushed things back a little bit. But at the end of the war, enough money had been raised to move the project at least to groundbreaking. And so in 1919, there was the first ground broken for what would become the YMCA building at Gettysburg College, the building that I'm standing in front of. The building was dedicated in 1922. It did not look exactly as it looks today, but it looked a bit like it looks today. The difference being that the two wings on the north and south sides of the building did not constitute part of the original building. This building, in other words, was a narrower building, but it did have the columns and it did have the steps that it now has. What was it for? The building was for the students of Gettysburg College to appreciate and to talk and to study and to mingle. It was, in effect, a student center for a Christian-centered college. There were rooms for study, there were rooms for Christian meditation and for Bible discussions. There was also a beautiful lobby. And so Gettysburg College, by 1922, has this Christian education building, and it's a very important piece of the college. By 1930, the lobby takes the shape that we now know it. It has the wonderful reproduction of a painting about a young knight on the night of his vigil, still in our building. And it has all of the features that any 1930-era student center might have, including a swimming pool. There was a swimming pool in the basement of Weidensall Hall, and it was, let's just say, an inadequate pool from the beginning, but a pool. When I say inadequate, the ceiling of the Weidensall swimming pool, which is on the first floor of this building, was about 9.5 feet high. So you can imagine there was not a lot of diving in this facility, but it did give students a chance to do some recreation. The building served its purpose as the Y building until 1937, when it was formally and informally changed to Weidensall Hall, as we know it today, in honor of Robert Weidensall, who had died in 1922. But the building would have a more important change in a very short time. At the end of World War II, an electrical fire broke out. And this electrical fire resulted in a spectacular blaze, which burned this building down from top to bottom. While the blaze was going on, students, almost in a foolhardy way, raced into the building to save whatever treasures they could, to save files, to save pictures, and to save anything that they thought would be essential to the rebuilding of this building. They saved most of what was in the building that mattered, but the building itself was destroyed. The college immediately committed itself to rebuilding a Y building. It secured the services of an alumnus who was an architect, and in 1948, with the help of the Women's League again, Gettysburg College would have another Christian center and student center at Weidensall Hall. The difference in 1948 was that the bottom wings on the north and south side of this building were added to give new space for administrative offices and what we know as the bullet hole, the snack bar for the students. So you have an additional role for Weidensall Hall as an administrative building for the alumni magazine offices, for the development office, and so forth. And it would maintain that status for the next few years. However, in the late 1950s, during the administration of General Willard Paul, the college built a union building for students. And that building took over many of the functions that this Weidensall Hall had been playing over the years. A new, more modern swimming pool was built, new student center was built, a bookstore was built, Bullet Hall went over to the new student building. And so Weidensall Hall will change its function and become an academic building for the most part after 1958. The building has subsequently seen a number of overhauls and changes since 1958. Renovations which moved different departments into different parts of the building, but by and large, for a good long time, a half a century or more now, it has been known for its academic role. In 1990, as the college student body grew and its functions increased, a decision was made that Weidensall Hall should be expanded. On both the north and the south wings of the building, a layer cake effect was constructed in which you add new classroom and office space to Weidensall Hall. In addition to that, the full fourth floor could be used as it never had, and the third floor would be reconfigured for office space and for classroom space. And the religion department and the philosophy department moved over here from Glatfelter Hall and have been comfortably ensconced here ever since that 1990 renovation. By and large, alumni from the 1950s and 60s who came into this building would be very comfortable with it, would remember things that they did in it. Some of the classrooms are a little smaller than they were, but by and large the function has been sustained. So today Weidensall Hall is a proud campus building. It's a heavily used campus building, but it is not the student center that it was in 1925. It is one of our proud and traditional campus centers as an academic building.